Want to know why most people flop at sticking to their goals while a few crush it like pros? Stick around, because I'm about to spill the exact discipline secrets that top performers swear by, stuff most people don't even know exists. All right, here's the deal. Discipline ain't just about waking up early or grinding 24/7. It's about having a system that makes crushing your goals feel almost automatic. In this video, I'm breaking down how you can build that kind of rock-solid discipline, step by step, using tricks and habits pros actually use every single day. By the end, you'll know exactly what to do to stop messing around and start leveling up your life like a boss. And trust me, once you get this right, you'll see why so many people fail before they even start. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Discipline is the secret sauce that separates the people who just dream about success from the ones who actually make it happen. And I don't care if you're a total beginner just dipping your toes into trading, a middle-of-the-road hustler trying to level up, or a seasoned pro grinding day in and day out, you already know that having the skills alone ain't enough. You could know every trick in the book, every market pattern, every strategy, and still crash and burn if you don't have the kind of discipline that makes you show up every day, even when you don't feel like it. Here's the kicker. Most people think discipline is all about willpower. They think it's about forcing yourself to do stuff you hate or punishing yourself when you slack. That's straight up wrong. Real discipline isn't some hardcore punishment. It's about designing your life and your habits so that the right moves become automatic. It's about creating a system where you're literally set up to win without constantly fighting your brain or your impulses. And that's the kind of mindset that top traders, entrepreneurs, athletes, and basically anyone who's crushing life use every day. Now, if you're wondering why this even matters, let me break it down. Discipline is like the engine that drives consistency, and consistency is the thing that compounds results over time. A beginner might see small wins and feel like it doesn't matter, but the truth is, if you can stack small wins every day over weeks and months, you'll start seeing insane results. Intermediate folks usually get stuck here. They know the value of consistency, but they don't have a system to actually maintain it, so they burn out or get lazy. And even experts, they can slip if they forget that discipline isn't just about talent or smarts. It's about showing up, managing distractions, and controlling impulses, no matter what. That's why in this video, we're not just talking about wake up early or push harder. We're diving into how pros actually build discipline, the habits they swear by, and the little tricks that make it almost effortless. And trust me, once you get this right, it doesn't just change how you trade or work, it changes your life. Stick around, because up next, we're going to get into the raw truth about discipline, the stuff most people totally misunderstand, and why knowing this will completely flip the way you approach your goals. Let's get real for a sec. Trading isn't just numbers and charts. It's a straight-up psychological battlefield. The reason most people freak out, make dumb moves, or lose money isn't because they don't know their technicals. It's because their brain is literally wired to react in ways that sabotage them. And this isn't just some excuse, it's biology. Your brain evolved to keep you alive, not to make you rich in the markets. And that clash creates chaos the moment real money is on the line. Here's the deal. Your brain has two main players running the show. The rational, thinking part we like to call the prefrontal cortex, and the emotional, impulsive part known as the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex is like the calm, smart investor inside you, the one who can plan, strategize, and wait for the perfect setup. The amygdala, on the other hand, is basically a panic monster. It's wired to react fast to threats, fight or flight style. And in the markets, every dip, spike, or sudden loss can trigger it like you're literally fighting for your life. That's why beginners panic sell when the price dips 2%, and why even seasoned traders sometimes freak out during a flash crash. Your brain thinks it's survival, not a calculated risk. And it's not just fear that messes you up. There's also greed. The brain releases dopamine, a feel-good chemical, whenever we anticipate a reward. In trading, that could be a big win or seeing a stock shoot up. Dopamine tricks you into chasing trades, over-leveraging, or holding positions way too long just for that hit of satisfaction. This is exactly why intermediate traders often get stuck in a cycle of making impulsive trades, thinking they're smart, but really they're just chasing that rush. Experts? Yeah, they aren't immune. They just know how to hack the system and keep the amygdala and dopamine in check. Here's another kicker: loss aversion. This is a psychological phenomenon where the pain of losing feels about twice as strong as the joy of winning. Your brain literally hates losing more than it loves winning. That's why you'll see traders holding on to losing positions, hoping they'll turn around, or exiting winners too early, scared of giving back profits. Beginners get wrecked here. Intermediates fight it daily. And pros? They've trained their minds to accept loss as part of the game, to act rationally despite the gut punch. And don't even get me started on overconfidence bias. When things go well, your brain thinks you're a genius. Suddenly, every move feels like a no-brainer, and you start ignoring risk management. That's where even experienced traders can get their asses handed to them. Hubris kills discipline faster than any dip. Your brain loves to inflate your ego after a couple wins, and if you're not careful, it's game over. Now let's talk about stress and fatigue. Trading under pressure spikes cortisol levels, which messes with your focus, memory, and decision-making. Ever notice how after a long, stressful trading day, even small decisions feel impossible? That's your brain crying for a break, telling you to slow down. But most beginners push harder, thinking hustle equals success. Intermediates learn this the hard way after repeated mistakes, and pros? They build routines to manage stress and protect mental energy because they know a tired brain is a reckless brain. Here's the thing that ties all this together. Your reactions in the market aren't flaws, they're survival instincts gone wild in an unnatural environment. Recognizing this is the first step toward mastery. Once you understand why your brain flips out during losses, spikes, or even when opportunity knocks, you can start designing strategies that work with your psychology, not against it. You learn to hack your own impulses, manage risk, and keep your emotions from hijacking your trades. Stick with me because in the next part, we're going to dive into the real truth about discipline, why most people totally misunderstand it, and how pros use it to control these exact reactions. Once you get that, everything from small wins to building mental toughness starts to click, and you'll see how the pros stay consistent while everyone else is losing their minds. All right, so here's the real game changer that most people totally sleep on: starting small. Yeah, I know it sounds boring, but hear me out. A lot of beginners go all in, trying to overhaul their entire life or trading strategy overnight, and they crash and burn fast. The truth is, building discipline isn't about massive, dramatic moves. It's about stacking tiny wins every single day until they snowball into something huge. Pros get this. They don't wake up and suddenly have perfect discipline. They build it bit by bit, one small win at a time. Think about it like this. If you're learning to trade, you don't start by trying to predict every market swing perfectly. You start with small, manageable habits. Maybe it's reviewing one chart a day, logging your trades consistently, or setting a tiny daily rule for risk management. Each little habit is like a mini victory that your brain recognizes and starts reinforcing. Before you know it, these micro habits compound, and suddenly you've got a disciplined routine that feels natural, not forced. And this isn't just beginner stuff. Intermediate traders often hit plateaus because they underestimate the power of incremental progress. They're trying to make big leaps, but their brain freaks out when it feels like too much change too fast. That's where micro habits come in. They allow you to push your limits without burning out. Even experts lean on this principle. They know that consistent, small actions, day after day, build momentum that no single big effort can match. It's the difference between someone who talks about being disciplined and someone who actually is. Here's the kicker. These small wins also build confidence. When your brain sees consistent progress, it starts to trust your actions. That trust makes it way easier to handle stress, resist impulsive decisions, and stick to the plan, even when the market gets messy. And this is exactly why pros rarely get rattled. They've stacked so many micro wins over time that discipline becomes automatic. So stick with me, because the next thing we're going to tackle is how to remove distractions and automate your success. Once you combine these micro habits with the right environment and systems, you're not just building discipline, you're setting yourself up to win almost effortlessly, no matter how wild the market gets. All right, so now that you've got the idea of stacking small wins every day, let's talk about something that's going to make all those wins way easier: removing temptations and automating your success. Look, discipline isn't just some mythical force you pull out of nowhere. It's mostly about setting yourself up so you don't have to rely on sheer willpower. Trust me, your willpower is limited. Every time you fight an urge, every time you resist a quick hit of dopamine, you're burning energy your brain could use smarter. That's why pros don't just try harder, they hack their environment so that the smart choice is the easy choice. Think about your own space for a sec. Is your phone blowing up with notifications while you're trying to focus on the charts? Are snacks or distractions within arm's reach when you should be grinding? These little things seem harmless, but they're secretly killing your discipline. Beginners get wrecked here because they underestimate how much their environment controls their behavior. The brain loves shortcuts. It will always go for the easy, quick reward. If you leave temptations lying around, you're basically feeding your impulsive side on a silver platter. Now, let's flip the script. What if you could make the disciplined choice almost automatic? That's where automation comes in. Pros know that if they can build routines and systems that handle the hard work for them, they don't have to constantly fight with their own brain. Maybe it's setting up alerts and trade rules so you stick to your plan without thinking, or prepping your workspace so everything you need is ready to go. Even little things count, like organizing your trading desk, keeping your phone in another room during sessions, or batching tasks so you're not constantly switching gears. These small tweaks are like a guardrail on your habits. Your brain naturally follows the path of least resistance, which now happens to be the right path. And this isn't just beginner-level advice. Intermediate traders often get stuck because they rely too much on motivation and willpower. They think, I'll just push through. But when the market gets wild or emotions spike, their discipline melts. That's why environment design and automated routines are a total game changer. It's like putting your brain on cruise control. You don't have to fight it every day. Even the experts lean on this principle. They know that no matter how strong their mindset is, if the setup is wrong, mistakes creep in. So they meticulously design their routines, their workspace, their schedules, and their trading rules so that consistency becomes the default. Here's the kicker. It's not just about avoiding bad habits, it's about reinforcing good ones. The environment can literally train your brain. Keep your charts and tools organized, schedule your trading sessions, and create a predictable rhythm for your day. Your brain starts expecting these actions, so doing the right thing becomes second nature. Even during stressful moments, when fear or greed start creeping in, the routines act like a safety net, keeping you on track without forcing you to constantly rely on willpower. And this isn't limited to trading. Think about your personal life, your fitness, or any goal you're grinding for. Pros in every field do the same thing. They remove friction for the stuff that matters and add friction for the stuff that doesn't. Want to stay disciplined on your diet? Don't keep junk food in the house. Want to stay consistent with learning or practice? Set up a dedicated space that makes it easy to focus. That's how small environmental tweaks compound into massive wins over time. So here's the takeaway. Discipline isn't just an internal battle. It's about engineering your life so that success isn't optional. You stack small wins, remove temptations, and automate your routines, and suddenly discipline stops being some heroic struggle and starts being your natural rhythm. Once you get this down, your brain stops fighting you, and you can actually focus on leveling up instead of constantly resisting distractions. Stick with me, because next we're diving into the real mental side, how pros train their minds and strengthen willpower. Once you understand this, you'll see how all these small habits and systems tie together, making discipline almost effortless, even when the markets get messy or the pressure's insane. So now that you've got the small wins stacked and your environment set up to work with you, let's talk about the part that separates the pros from everyone else: mental conditioning and willpower. Here's the truth. Your brain is constantly fighting you, even when you think you're making rational choices. Fear, greed, doubt, impatience, these are all wired into your system, and if you don't train your mind, they'll run the show. Beginners usually crash hard here because they rely on motivation or brute force, thinking they can push through. Intermediate traders get it sometimes, but they hit mental walls and burnout. Pros, they don't just push harder, they train their minds so that controlling impulses becomes second nature. Mental conditioning isn't some mystical stuff. It's about creating habits and thought patterns that make your brain work for you, not against you. One of the core techniques pros use is visualization. They literally picture themselves handling tough trades, managing losses, sticking to their plan under pressure. Your brain can't really tell the difference between a real scenario and a vivid mental rehearsal. So when the real moment hits, your mind is already prepared. It reacts calm, measured, and precise. Beginners rarely do this, and that's why the first big loss hits like a punch to the gut. Another technique is deliberate exposure to discomfort. Pros know that willpower is like a muscle. It gets stronger when you challenge it. That could mean sticking to a routine even when you're tired, practicing focus exercises, or simulating stressful market conditions. The more you practice managing discomfort in low-stakes situations, the easier it becomes to handle high-pressure moments. Your brain stops panicking, and your impulses don't hijack your decisions. Intermediate traders often underestimate this. They want fast results without building the mental muscle, and that's why their consistency is shaky. Journaling and reflection is another cornerstone. Writing down your trades, your thought process, and your emotional responses isn't just about record keeping, it's a mental conditioning exercise. By reviewing your decisions, you spot patterns in your behavior, where fear made you freeze, where greed made you chase, and where discipline carried you through. Experts do this religiously because awareness is the first step to control. Beginners often ignore it, thinking it's extra work, but this reflection is what separates random luck from repeatable skill. Then there's the power of routines and micro-discipline. Pros create mental anchors, specific routines, pre-trade rituals, or mini checklists that put them in a disciplined state of mind. When these routines become automatic, they override impulsive urges. Your brain stops reacting emotionally and starts operating strategically. That's why even under crazy market swings, seasoned traders don't panic. They've trained their minds to follow the system, not the emotions. And let's be real, managing stress is huge here. High cortisol levels, fatigue, and information overload can wreck even a skilled trader's mental game. Pros don't just rely on willpower, they actively protect their mental energy. Meditation, deep breathing, controlled breaks, or even fitness routines are all part of their arsenal. When your mind is calm and rested, willpower isn't a struggle, it's the default. Beginners often skip this, and intermediate traders underestimate it, but pros treat mental energy like currency. It's precious and needs management. The key takeaway? Discipline isn't just about doing the right thing, it's about training your mind so the right thing becomes the easy thing. Every habit you build, every visualization, every deliberate exposure to discomfort, and every reflection session is wiring your brain for success. Your impulses become manageable, your emotional reactions shrink, and your ability to stick to your system skyrockets. So, keep this in mind as we move forward, because next, we're diving into accountability and tracking progress. Once you combine mental conditioning with smart systems that track your actions and hold you accountable, that's when discipline goes from something you try to something you live. Stick around, because the next part is where all these mental muscles start translating into measurable, real-world results that actually stick. Alright, so you've stacked small wins, set up your environment, and trained your mind to handle impulses. Now it's time to lock it all in with accountability and tracking. Here's the truth. Most people think discipline is all internal, like some internal battle you fight alone. That's straight up wrong. The reality is, the more you measure your actions and make yourself accountable, whether to yourself or others, the stronger your discipline becomes. Beginners often ignore this, thinking, I'll just try harder. Intermediate traders sometimes track a little, but inconsistently. Pros, they run systems that make accountability automatic, and that's why they stay consistent even under pressure. Let's start with self-measurement. Tracking your actions, trades, or daily habits isn't some boring paperwork thing. It's a mental hack. When you see your progress laid out, your brain starts associating consistent actions with results. It's like giving your mind a scoreboard. Suddenly, every little win matters, and every mistake becomes a learning point instead of just a frustrating loss. Beginners often skip this step, and intermediate folks might glance at it occasionally, but consistent review is where the magic happens. Your brain learns to associate discipline with tangible results, not just abstract good intentions. Then there's social accountability, which is huge. You ever notice how you're more likely to hit the gym if a friend is waiting, or meet a deadline if someone's checking in on you? Same principle applies to trading or building any skill. Sharing your goals, progress, or even just the fact that you're grinding creates a kind of external pressure that your brain takes seriously. Beginners might feel awkward about this, thinking it's bragging, but it's not. It's strategic. Intermediate traders sometimes have accountability partners, but they don't fully integrate them into their routines. Pros make it part of their system. They have mentors, peers, or even online communities that keep them in check, reinforce good habits, and provide feedback in real time. That's the secret sauce that turns discipline from a nice idea into an automatic response. Another layer is structured feedback loops. Pros don't just track their actions, they analyze them. Did you stick to your trading plan? Did you follow your routines without giving in to impulses? Did you miss a small daily win? Reviewing these things regularly rewires your brain to recognize patterns and adjust faster. Beginners often overlook feedback, and intermediate folks might glance at it occasionally, but consistent review is where the magic happens. Your brain learns to associate discipline with tangible results, not just abstract good intentions. And here's the thing. Accountability and tracking don't just reinforce discipline, they reduce mental load. Once you know your progress is being measured and that someone, or even just a system, has your back, your brain stops obsessing over every tiny decision. That mental energy gets freed up for actually making smart moves, instead of worrying about whether you're disciplined enough. It's like trading stress for focus, and that's exactly what separates the pros from everyone else. Stick with me, because next we're getting into something equally important, rewarding yourself strategically. Once you've got accountability and tracking dialed in, the right rewards amplify your discipline even more. Done right, this makes sticking to routines, handling stress, and controlling impulses feel almost effortless. In the next section, you'll see how pros use rewards to supercharge their consistency without sabotaging their progress. All right, so now that you've got accountability locked in and your progress is being tracked, let's talk about something most people totally overlook: rewards. And I'm not talking about just treating yourself with random junk food or scrolling TikTok for an hour after finishing a trade. I'm talking about strategic rewards that actually reinforce discipline and keep you motivated without breaking your momentum. Because here's the truth, even the most disciplined trader, athlete, or hustler will hit burnout if there's nothing in place to acknowledge the wins. Beginners often ignore this, thinking discipline means grinding endlessly with no payoff. Intermediate traders sometimes reward themselves, but it's inconsistent or poorly timed. Pros, they know exactly how to use rewards to make consistency addictive. Here's the key. Rewards need to be tied to specific behaviors or milestones, not just vague outcomes. For example, instead of waiting to celebrate after hitting some massive profit, something totally out of your control, you reward yourself for sticking to your trading plan, following your routines, or executing your strategy flawlessly. That way, your brain starts associating the action itself with a positive hit of dopamine, not just the result. Beginners often wait for results to feel good, and that's a trap, because the market doesn't always cooperate. Experts flip the switch. They know that if the action is consistently rewarded, results will naturally follow. Another pro tip: timing matters. Immediate rewards are way more effective than delayed ones. When you finish a disciplined trading session or check off your micro habits for the day, give yourself a little something that feels good. A coffee, a short break, a quick walk, whatever works. Your brain starts linking the action with positive feelings instantly, which reinforces the habit loop faster. Intermediate traders delay rewards or make them too big, which ironically can backfire and create a "why bother" mentality if it feels unreachable. The pros know exactly how to use small, consistent reinforcement wins every time. Now let's talk about smart reward systems. You don't want to sabotage your own progress by celebrating in ways that counteract your goals. For instance, if you just crushed a week of disciplined trading or micro habits, don't binge watch Netflix for 6 hours or blow your savings on impulsive purchases. That's counterproductive. Instead, reward yourself with something that supports your goals or feels genuinely satisfying without derailing progress. Maybe it's a nice meal, some quality downtime, or even a small purchase you've been wanting, something that feels like a treat but doesn't undo your work. Beginners often overlook this, and intermediate folks sometimes go overboard thinking any reward works. Experts plan them smartly so the habit loop stays intact. And here's the real magic. Strategic rewards don't just feel good, they train your brain. Every time your mind gets that positive feedback after a disciplined action, it strengthens the neural pathways associated with self-control, patience, and consistency. Over time, sticking to routines, controlling impulses, and grinding through challenges starts to feel almost automatic. Even when the markets get wild or the pressure's insane, your brain has been conditioned to find satisfaction in showing up and doing the work, rather than in chasing instant gratification. That's why pros rarely fall off their game. They've built a system that rewards consistency itself, not just luck or random wins. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's cool, but what about mistakes? Here's the deal. Rewards don't mean ignoring failures. In fact, pairing rewards with accountability and reflection makes them even more powerful. You celebrate the wins, but you also review what went wrong and learn from it. Beginners often get stuck in guilt or shame when things go sideways. Intermediate traders sometimes shrug it off, but experts use every outcome, good or bad, as feedback. When rewards are combined with reflection and accountability, your discipline becomes resilient, adaptive, and practically unstoppable. So the big picture here is this: by rewarding yourself strategically, you're not just patting yourself on the back, you're hacking your brain's natural reward system. You make discipline feel good, create momentum, and turn consistency into a lifestyle rather than a grind. And once you understand this, it all clicks with everything we've talked about so far: the small wins, the clean environment, the mental conditioning, and the accountability systems. Stick around, because next we're diving into something every trader, beginner, intermediate, or pro needs to watch out for: the common discipline traps that sneak up and derail your progress. Once you know what to avoid, all these strategies we've talked about will start to stick even harder, making you almost untouchable when it comes to staying disciplined in the markets or in life. All right, so you've built the foundation: small wins, a clean environment, mental conditioning, accountability, and strategic rewards. But here's the thing: even the most disciplined traders hit traps if they're not careful. And these aren't just beginner mistakes. Even intermediate and seasoned pros can fall into them if they get overconfident or complacent. The key is knowing what to watch out for, because awareness is half the battle. Beginners often get wrecked because they don't see the pitfalls coming. Intermediate traders stumble when they think they've figured it out. And experts? Yeah, they even double-check themselves, because one tiny misstep can cost consistency. One of the biggest traps is trying to do too much at once. Beginners often dive in thinking they need to overhaul every habit and every strategy immediately. They try to memorize 100 market patterns, track every trade, wake up at 5 a.m., and meditate all in the same week. Sounds ambitious, right? But the brain can only handle so much change before it rebels. That's why micro habits and incremental wins are crucial. They prevent burnout and make progress stick. Intermediate traders sometimes make this mistake too, thinking adding one more tool or strategy will magically boost results, but it just overwhelms their system. The pros? They focus on mastering one change at a time and layering improvements slowly. Another huge trap is relying solely on motivation. Look, motivation is a lie your brain tells you. It comes and goes like a roller coaster. Beginners think, I just need to feel motivated, then I'll be disciplined. But that rarely works. Intermediates fall into the same trap, pushing themselves when motivation spikes and collapsing when it dips. Pros don't rely on motivation at all. They build systems, habits, and routines that run on autopilot. Their environment, accountability, and mental conditioning carry them through when motivation dips, so they're consistent no matter what. Then there's impulse trading and emotional reactions, which can wreck both discipline and results. Even someone with solid skills can lose control when fear or greed kicks in. Beginners panic sell at the first dip. Intermediates might overtrade or chase profits. Pros, on the other hand, train their minds, follow strict routines, and stick to their rules even under pressure. The trap here is thinking you can wing it or rely on instincts. Discipline beats instincts every time. A subtle but deadly trap is comparing yourself to others. Beginners scroll social media, see other traders posting big wins, and freak out. Intermediates get caught in envy, thinking everyone else is crushing it while they're stuck. Pros? They focus on their own process and growth, measuring progress against themselves, not anyone else. Comparing yourself constantly is a shortcut to frustration, anxiety, and breaking habits. Another one that sneaks up is overconfidence after wins. You just nailed a trade or stuck to your routine flawlessly for a week, and suddenly your brain thinks it's invincible. This is where intermediate traders often over-leverage or abandon rules. Experts know that wins don't mean you can slack. They double down on routines, checklists, and reflection. Discipline is about consistency, not luck or streaks. Finally, a trap most people forget is neglecting rest and recovery. Discipline isn't about grinding non-stop. Beginners push too hard and burn out. Intermediates underestimate mental fatigue, thinking they can power through. Pros schedule breaks, manage stress, and protect mental energy because a tired brain is impulsive and reckless. Consistency over time matters more than a short burst of super discipline. The takeaway? Discipline isn't just about doing the right things, it's about avoiding the traps that quietly undo your progress. Awareness, planning, and self-honesty are key. Once you recognize these pitfalls, you can actually put your systems, micro-habits, mental conditioning, accountability systems, and smart rewards to full use without getting derailed. And stick around, because next we're wrapping this up with the final message and call to action. This is where we tie everything together, show you how to actually implement all these strategies, and leave you with a clear, actionable plan to build rock-solid discipline like the pros do. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. This is the part that turns all the ideas into results that stick. All right, we've walked through a lot today. Small wins, environment hacks, mental conditioning, accountability systems, and even smart rewards. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this. Discipline isn't some magical trait you're born with. It's a skill you can build, layer by layer, habit by habit, until it becomes the backbone of everything you do. Beginners, this means start small and don't get intimidated. Intermediate traders, it's about refining your routines and staying consistent. And pros, you already know that mastery comes from stacking small, disciplined actions over time. This is just a reminder to never get complacent. Here's the real kicker. Discipline compounds. Every micro-habit you build, every environment tweak, every mental training session, and every reward system you use doesn't just improve your trading or work, it changes the way you show up in life. You stop being a slave to fear, greed, or impulsive decisions, and you start controlling your outcomes. And that's exactly how pros operate. They've designed their lives to make success inevitable, not accidental. So here's what I want you to do next. Pick one habit, one routine, or one system we talked about today and implement it immediately. Track it, measure it, and reward yourself when you stick to it. Don't overcomplicate it. Start small, but start now. Consistency beats motivation every single time. Remember, discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, learning, and improving every day. Start today and watch how these small steps stack into massive results over time. Stick with the process, trust yourself, and build that pro-level discipline that will carry you through anything.